Okay, so today we're doing our workshop today, self-havening workshop for pregnancy. Just most of you know me, but I'm going to go ahead and and introduce myself anyway, as part of a formal way of doing this. Okay, so I'm Kim Sun. Have been a home birth midwife for 10 years. Have been an in-birth and midwifery for 15 years. I am a certified nurse midwife and a certified havening practitioner, which is a whole new modality that I got into in 2016 and began to incorporate into part of my work. And I immediately realized that I didn't really understand midwifery because the work that is truly holistic was not something that I was trained in. The mind is such a powerful influence on the whole body that it makes really no sense to just focus on the certain parts of your care. And I often say that there are three prongs to our care approach. One of them is mental health. One of them is the doctoring, the kind of thing that you would do when you go see the doctor. The third part is the education, where we continue to inform you and prepare you for birth. And if I had to choose only one of these components, the one that has the most impact I have found is mental health. So I'm really passionate about this work. When I started midwifery, um, I didn't really know what I was in for. I was really, really fascinated with birth, as you can imagine most people are. And what I didn't realize, and now what I know now is, I knew nothing. I mean, I thought women's, like, the pregnancy body and mind was just so, like, intriguing. But now what I realize is so much more intriguing than I even ever realized. This is just what I call you guys and my clients, this amazing creature that is just there's just so much to know about you that is not even, no people, no matter how much research people have done, they really haven't gotten into how incredibly unique pregnant people are. So that's how I got there. And um, before we start, I just want to do some little housekeeping, so you'll will be prepared. We This is a 2.5 hour session. We've already gone about 5 to 7 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap up on time because I know that people have things to do. This recording will be available if you request it. So I'll go ahead and have, in case you want to. Um, so what we're going to do is we will have a break. We will have a little, what we call a bio break for 15 minutes, because I know bathroom use is it's a big thing. And then we will have time for questions. In the meantime, if you just want to not forget your question, go ahead and type it on the side as we are going through this workshop. And then when I get to the Q&A time, I will review it. And if you still are, maybe that question would have been answered. And if it hasn't been answered, then I'll answer that for you, because we'll have time for that as well. And for people who have been in my care, a lot of the beginning of mental health introduction that I give to you, you'll see some of that overlap, which I think is fine, because there's a lot to kind of process. So repeating that information, I feel like would be very useful. But this actual 3.5 hour session is going to be quite generally a complete tool on the foundation of doing this work. There is a lot more beyond this, but I find this information alone can be truly life-changing for the people that I've worked with, and I hope that this is what I can do for everybody. All right, so we are going to go straight into this by simply asking you guys to give yourself a SUT score. A SUT score stands for a subjective unit of distress. It goes from 0 to 10, 0 being no stress whatsoever, 10 being the worst that you can imagine. I'm going to give you a moment to get your number. Remember that it's subjective, so it's not that accurate in the clinical term, but it's accurate to what you want to call yourself. Okay, just assign a number for yourself and just have that. Okay, and then we are going to go straight into Havening Touch, and for a few of you that's a whole new thing, so I'm going to go through the whole motion of that touch. Ready? So the touch is simply using your hands to touch in 3 spots. Right? And when you're ready, let's begin. So the first Havening Touch is along the arms. And you're going to go from the top of your arm down, just like that, like you're hugging yourself, to your elbow, release and repeat. That's it. As if yourself giving yourself a comforting hug. Sometimes I refer to it as stroking a cat type of motion, because it's one way. So, when you stroke a cat, you only do from top to bottom. And in a way, obviously, that's gentle. And whenever we do these sessions, that's the only rule, is that you keep the Havening Touch going the entire time. So the arm touch, I'm going to ask you to explore the pace of your touch and find, if you can, a sweet spot. Whether you like it a little faster, maybe a little slower, just play with that. Also explore the firmness of your touch. For me, I personally like a more sort of like nice hug. Maybe you could try that and see how that works for you. Then go to the other end and try really kind of feathery touch and see how that feels. Oh, this is the first time that my neighbor is actually deciding to saw something. So if you can hear some sound, it's that. And then I'm going to invite you to find the sweet, sort of just the right pace. And as you do that, I'm actually going to text my neighbor. Just keep going, please. I'm also going to ask you to listen to the sound of the touch. See if you can hear skin on skin or skin on fabric. And that is touch number 1. Okay? The second touch is going to be the palm of your hands, simply just rubbing your palms together. Now, with pregnancy, you may notice when you did the arms, sometimes for some people, depending on your stage of pregnancy, there could be a little boobage sort of thing. where you kind of it's a little bit in the way. So it's sometimes nice. It's nice that we have these other options of the hands, and then the next one will be the face. Okay. So for some pregnant people, they prefer to do it this way. So it's kind of out of the way. Just go ahead and try and see which one works for you. Whether it's this, the way I think of it is washing your hands in slow motion. And I'm going to invite you now to focus on the friction that you're producing and maybe even the heat. And I'm going to ask you to try to bring your focus to your right pinky. You can keep your eyes closed or open, it doesn't matter. And try to see what's happening, where the touch and the contact points are with your right pinky. Then move to your left pinky. Focusing again on the contact points. Now your right thumb. And your left thumb. And now paying attention to the palms, the sort of undulating surface of both palms and how they glide over each other. Noticing your breath as you do that. Noticing how you're taking in just the right amount of air and how easy your breath is. Now the third area will be your face. Now the face is quite interesting because everyone's face is so different. I have such a broad face. Some people have narrow faces. Sometimes with glasses, you could take it off. I'm going to leave mine on, but some people find that easier. So with the face, you're going to take your hands and sort of go. The first thing is to move your hands across like you're wiping away the sweat of your brow. And then underneath your eyes, like you're wiping away tears. Just like that, back and forth. Focusing on emotion of soothing and calming yourself, if you know what I mean. Sort of the intention to make yourself feel better. So if you were consoling someone, you were reaching out and you were wiping away their tears, what kind of motion would you use? And as you do that, we're going to explore again how you like your touch. Do you like it just with the fingertips? It's kind of feathery strokes. Do you prefer a more firm and full contact? Go ahead and play with that. As you explore the landscape of your face, maybe feel what the slope of your nose feels like, and the round of your cheekbones, and the firmness of your forehead. So that's kind of the general face havening technique. But I find that some people actually have different preferences. And so I'm going to play with a few of those to see what you like. Some people prefer sort of like a full contact from the top all the way down. So from the top of your forehead all the way down along your cheeks to your jaw and back again. Anything that feels soothing will work. You can go back and forth. So, whenever we're doing this work, when we start to do these havening guided practices, the only rule is for you to keep the touch going consistently. And the reason is because you are producing delta waves the entire time. So, as we finish up, I'm going to invite you to say these words after me out loud to yourself. Make sure that everybody is muted so that you can have your own space. I open my heart to learning. I open my mind to friendship. I feel safe, peaceful, and calm. And with that, I invite you to lay your hands down and come back to the room. Now I'm going to ask you to score yourself. Is it the same number? Has it changed? Just make a note to yourself. Okay, as we keep going through this, you're going to be exercising this self-awareness and of what your body is experiencing as far as stress levels. Okay, that's the havening touch. Now, what is the havening touch and how did that come about? I'll give you a little bit of history. So when you are applying these touches, delta waves are being produced, released in your brain. What are delta waves? It's the slowest recorded brain wave in human beings. They are found in wake state, most often in infants and young children. In adults, they are commonly released only in deep sleep, stage 4, or we call it beyond REM, beyond rapid eye movement, beyond a dream state. And the quality of this wave is associated with levels of relaxation, and restoration. And what it also does for your body is it makes you feel better, rejuvenated, increase your health in general. And it heals your body in sort of the body learns how to heal itself. So I think the way I like to think of delta waves are, you wake up, your house is all clean, we're in a perfect world. It's, everything is in place. You just put your clothes on. And let's say, you're going about your day. Let's say it's the pandemic and you're not going out anywhere. Or maybe it's a Sunday and you drink coffee, you do this, you do that, you move around your house, you got dishes, you use dishes, you have laundry. And then at the end of the day, you go to sleep and little elves come and clean your place for you. Little elves put away all those things so that when you wake up, everything is like just the way it was before. So that's a little bit of analogy that comes to mind for me when I think about what delta waves do. They take this information that you have that can be a little bit all over the place and then kind of put those information together to make sense. And what it is a brain hack. When we do it as part of havening, that's what I like to call it. Because what you're doing as an adult, you're unlikely to be walking around in a wake state with a level of delta wave. It's minimum. It's been tested. When they first found this science, they actually, it was based on a study, based on brainwave study. But now these brainwave things are available, widely available. So it's now proven. We no longer have to rely on that study anymore. You can put what we call these focus bands, and when you haven, you can see the delta waves becoming very prominent. So now it's like a visible, evidence that's happening. So what you're doing, so the originally it was found to be a one-to-one therapeutic session using the basis, the foundation, what I call the secret sauce, harnessing delta waves in that wake state. So then I use this picture of this secret garden. So when you come to a therapeutic session, what we do while you are doing this havening is you are entering this secret garden in a very unique space of healing. And I'm able to use words and do silly things, and all the whole time you're applying the havening touch, and you are able, the work that we are able to do is really, you can get to the healing very quickly. So it's almost like I said, this secret sauce that helps us get to trauma and to a lot of other things very quickly. So that's kind of a hack. And now we can use it as it has evolved into actual self-care. And I have found that self-care part to be a huge, but it's no longer just coming in and like, do you have a phobia? Let me just, do bam, 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 15 minutes, we get rid of your 20 years of phobia. That's the easy part of this work. If you've heard of EMDR and tapping, that's the sign. They could never explain it before, but because the founders were geeks and doctors, they actually went to look behind the neuroscience. So we have an understanding of some of this new psychosensory work. So sometimes, there's the science, this is about neuroplasticity, but it's not really necessary for us to go into that deep language, because it's more about the basic understanding and more about the work that you're going to do. So however, I just want to just give you a little brief explanation of some of the stuff that's happening in your brain. It is when we are using havening, we are doing something called a depotentiation of AMPA receptors on the surface of the lateral amygdala. I know that's a mouthful, but amygdala is your seat of fear. And your fear responses, which is what causes your body to have anxiety and stress and all of that, is delinked, so that you still have memory of the event, but you no longer have the fear response, because the receptors that are receiving that information and then bring it downstream to the responses in your body, that's been delinked, because it's been what they call depotentiated. Okay? So let's go into stress and pregnancy, which is a big, I am sure that all of you have heard some form of this kind of conversation about stress and pregnancy. I am here to tell you, based on everything I've studied and seen and researched, that the right amount of stress is healthy for your baby's development. This is something that all people should know, because the message tends to be very negative. right? Stress is bad for your baby. One of the problems with this messaging is that they don't tell you what to do. They don't really explain what it means, and they don't tell you what to do. So then that's you're left with that kind of information. It's like this, and I've done this exercise with some of you. I'm going to invite you now just to not think of a blue elephant. Okay? Just do not think of a blue elephant. Well, that's the same kind of thing that they tell you. They do stress is bad for you. And then they leave you and you're like, huh? And then the whole time you're like, okay. And then sometimes it ruminates into like, oh my God, I'm stressed. And then you're stressed and you worry about what your stress is doing to you, because our brain, the human brain is unique, is that we overthink. We think about thinking, and we can cycle into that state. Right? But so I'm here to tell you, based on what all my experiences and all the research that I've seen, that the right amount of stress is healthy for your baby. This is really important messaging. Okay. So let's look at stress. Look at what sort of in a sort of a way to kind of clinically observe what stress is. Most of you may be already familiar with the language. In fact, some of you may be in science, so you already know that, right? You have levels of stress. You have at the end, the red zone, the sympathetic nervous system that is in full force. And then at the other end, you have the parasympathetic nervous system. So your body is constantly trying to go back and forth between the two. You're kind of trying to regulate, and you're never in one state. You're always in a state of flux and change. So whatever your number is, let's say, you're a 5, you'll be somewhere in the middle. That's kind of a reference point, right? And if you're very calm and joyful and happy and feeling completely safe, your number may be 0, and you'll be all the way on the green side. So that's a little bit of that SUT score is an indicator of your stress level, but really you don't need it. Most people don't need it, because when you're stressful, you're like, I'm not feeling good. That's generally pretty much available instinctively. But the number is good in a way to kind of help you see what Havening can do for you. Okay? And it can help. It's a tool to direct you to what you need to do. So let's again look at sort of very foundational, this our primal directive, and what it is that we are supposed to be, how as humans, how we are functioning. So now I'd like to bring you back to the 10,000 years ago, when we were only thing we were concerned about is food and running away from a predator, right? Being safe. So very simple example. If you were going out doing some foraging and you see a saber-toothed tiger and it's coming after you and you run, you're at the predator state, right? The predator is actually there. So you are at full SAT score of 10. And what that means is, biologically, is your body has now, I apologize for there's a slight mistake there. You look at cortisol's epinephrine and norepinephrine. Ignore the cortisol. You're at full epinephrine, norepinephrine. In America, we call it adrenaline, but some of the scientific community calls it epinephrine or norepinephrine. You're at full adrenaline epinephrine state, which means that it is a hormone that's short acting, and it allows you to run very quickly away from the saber-tooth tiger, right? So, and it's short acting, meaning that you can only sustain it for so long. Your heart can only beat so fast for so long, right? Your body is going to deplete of resources. So that's why it's short acting. Then once you run away and you manage to escape, and you've gotten to a place where you no longer see the predator, the saber-tooth tiger, but you're not sure if it's completely gone. And that would be the predator alert state. So you're not sure it's gone, but you're not sure you're safe. So that is kind of there right in the middle. And that is when cortisols, the stress hormone cortisols, are predominant in your body, right? So the translation, the interesting thing and the fascinating is translating our primal self into this very, very different environment where the saber-tooth tiger is extinct, but not the predator. So that even though all of us, when you think about it, all of us have a roof over our heads, we have food in the refrigerator, we have all these conveniences, right? So when you think about it in that slice of time, you're supposed to feel safe, but why don't you, right? Why do some people still not feel that way? Because the idea of the concept of predator is different. Worrying about what might happen in your job, worrying about, what somebody just said to you, worrying about your future, having some memories coming up, right? That's a lot of people are sort of there as well. They live there as well. And then, of course, the safe oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin state is when you're absolutely sure that you are safe. And that's what havening can help regulate you down to. So there's nothing wrong with moving back and forth because your baby wants to experience the stress levels. In other words, the baby's most healthy when your body is going back and forth between these levels. You're not supposed to be stagnant because your baby's trying to determine the kind of world that it's going to be born into. Therefore, it's making these kind of adjustments. Just like a minimum amount of stress is good for you. I've used the word window of tolerance sometimes in my conversation, meaning that the healthy, what we're trying to achieve is not to prevent stress from happening. What we're trying to do is learn techniques when it goes more towards the red zone, how to quickly de-escalate into the green zone. And that's where havening comes in. Okay? How to get you into that zone through neuroscience. Okay? So you see there's fight or flight. We probably heard of that. And in that safe state, there's relaxation, growth, calm, and connection. Those are moments that are essential. And so particularly that oxytocin, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, that's that bonding hormone that is really essential, not only to bond with your baby, but prenatally, to bond, not postpartum, but prenatally, to bond with the process that you are experiencing. And the other function of oxytocin, it has a different function when you're in labor. Before labor, anytime before labor, after labor, not in labor, the oxytocin in your body is perceived as this sense of joy and sense of love. So it's usually just there when you're fully in love or you're having sex, and there's going to be this huge rush of oxytocin. In labor, however, it has a different function. It functions to increase the uterine contraction. It is the fuel that fuels the contraction of the uterine. And that's, if you've heard of something called Pitocin, that's the artificial oxytocin. So if hospitals will overuse, it's not that there's anything wrong with it being used marginally, but it's being overused. So that's why there are cascades to all kinds of problems. But what we're looking at is what they're trying to do is replace the oxytocin that you would otherwise, need, right? So because the function of oxytocin in labor is to increase that contractility so that your baby can be born, right? So the amazing system is built so that by the time, once your baby comes out and you're holding your baby on your chest, your your oxytocin has no other place to go. It can't do, and it's back to its original work, which is to make you fall in love. And that's partly how bonding works. So like flush with the oxytocin and then you fall in love. Okay? So let's look down at the sort of the bottom part, something called the UBF, which is um, uterine blood flow. Decreased uterine blood flow during the sympathetic nervous state and increase uterine blood flow during the parasympathetic state. So we're the baby is again very clever because the baby expects some degree of stress, and the baby is constantly negotiating that. So that if you're running away from the saber-tooth tiger, what the baby does is go into almost like a coma, like a state of low oxygen use, because baby knows that if the mother survives, that's key, right? So the baby cannot, baby goes, here, take my take the oxygen, use it for whatever you need to get out of danger. So the baby goes into this low oxygen use state. And one of the things that is happening to your body too is that your vessels will constrict. Your uterine vessels will constrict at that moment so that there is less blood flow to the baby. And then when you're out of that state, then your vessels will dilate. And this is all directed by epinephrine, adrenaline versus oxytocin. This is all directed by the hormones that are in your body. So this is my, this is the structure, my favorite. Everybody's trying now to, as usual, in this very technocratic world with, where they are focused on one thing. Everybody's really excited about oxytocin. They are using oxytocin nasally for depression and all that stuff. So now they're trying to take it, again, just the same as they did with Pitocin. They're trying to take it out of the body and then sort of apply it as a medicine because it's been found to have so many qualities. Okay? So this is a study that I mentioned about constriction. So what they've seen is that in sheep, they've only studied in sheep, but it makes sense to transfer that information to humans. When they actually inject adrenaline into the sheep mother, the uterine, the vessels begin to constrict. So this is all, evidence that we have. Okay, so just I want to give a tiny little break for any questions before we go into actual havening again. I want this also, this is going to be this is constructed so that we're actually doing a lot of the work. So any quick questions that I can answer at the moment?
I had a quick question, Kim.
Who is that? Sorry, Whitney.
Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about how that baby is like, it's actually good for them to experience some level of stress, but what if you went through something massively traumatic during pregnancy? Does that kind of stay like imprinted on the baby?
So that's a very good question, right? I'm sure a natural question to ask. So what we see as evidence is there's a whole other talk that I give about placenta. You see little infarcts on the placenta. So there's like cell death in the placenta at moments of high level of SATs. But if there are enough moments of the other moments, it doesn't hurt the baby at all because the system is set up to allow that to happen. Does that help a little bit? Yeah. So the goal is for you to understand that. So you go, oh, and then to give you the tool so that when that happens, you can go, whoa, wait, okay. I know what's happening with me, and I'm going to bring it down. That's it. That's all about the worst part, the part that is the hardest, that the reason why I am putting out this training, this workshop globally, is because there is little women have in terms of of getting out of that state. It's constantly like, what do I do? What do I do? And then it goes into a very common thing. And panic attacks are very common in pregnancy. And I'm able to take sometimes, even with my clients, and my clients are generally very healthy mentally. And so we see beautiful placentas. The COVID has proven to be a really interesting study on placenta, because everyone is complaining that the placenta is so funky and so weird. Not enough care, because the moment that COVID happened, we implemented this right away. And what we're seeing is quite beautiful placentas, and health, meaning healthy. It tells a lot about the future of the baby's health. But what I'm seeing, but I'm able to, even moments like for a healthy birth, I'm able to say something like, recent birth, I looked at the placenta, I said, at around the beginning of the third trimester, did you have an anxiety attack, a panic attack of sorts? Because this woman was so healthy, so happy, like overly happy. She havens a lot, and she's always like, I'm joyful, I'm joyful. And then she looks at me, she goes, yes, that was that moment I had a phone call and I almost couldn't breathe. And I saw it as an infarct on the placenta. But it doesn't affect the health of the baby. There is a lot of room for error, so to speak. Any other question? Does that answer help you a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions before we move on? Because I like to go into actually doing another session right now. Okay, great. Now we're actually going to do something that is, we're going to teach you now, actually answering your question. I'm going to teach you how to downregulate using distractions. Okay? So this is an actual tool that you can use. Okay? So go back again and think about your number again. And your number may have changed. We did it all depends on who you are, where you're coming from. Everyone's going to be slightly different. Maybe you went down and then I started to talk about stress. You went up again. It doesn't matter. Just go ahead and give yourself that number right now. And we are going to move into the work of distraction, doing the actual work. So ready? All right. We'll take a deep breath and let's begin havening. So the only goal, as I said, the only work that you have to do is to keep the havening touch continuously going, because we need to harness that secret sauce in order for the work to facilitate this work. Okay. And I am going to be I'm going to show you what distractions are, and then we're going to talk about it later. Just for the moment, just follow me through all these distractions. Okay. So the first distraction is a simple counting. I'm going to invite you now to count to yourselves from 50 to 0 by twos, out loud if possible. If you're with someone, maybe that might be a bit distracting. Doesn't matter, as long as it feels okay. Go ahead and count from 50 to 0. I will be silent and let you do that. So some of you may be done, some of you are wrapping up. It doesn't really matter. You can stop too. We're going to move into a different distraction now. Next distraction, we're going to play a little game. We're going to use, play an alphabet game. If I say an alphabet, you're going to say out loud the next alphabet that follows. So if I say S, you're going to say T out loud. Okay? Ready? M, P, B, W, Q, J, G, E, C. Okay, so I feel without asking you that that's fairly easy. We're going to do a slight variation on that. I'm going to go ahead again, the same thing, but you're going to name the alphabet that comes before that. It's going to take a little bit of brain work. Okay, ready? M, S, L. And if for some of you, they may be like, oh, wait, it doesn't matter. Let it pass if you can't. C, Z, W, N, K, O, U, Q. And so the reason why I did that was just to show you that about the quality of distraction. The way that distraction works, it has to be slightly, it's distracting. So for some of you, counting downwards might be distracting, but maybe too easy. That's why I did it counting by twos. For some of you, alphabet might be easy, but then going backwards might be a little difficult. So it has to be just distracting enough, but not distressful. That's the quality of havening. I'm going to go into another distraction. Okay, this is going to be more a little bit more sensory in that I'm going to ask you to name 5 vegetables slowly as I call out the number. One vegetable. 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to keep going. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So vegetables are another distraction. It is neutral or positive. You love vegetables, it's positive, or it's sensory. Once in a while, no matter how you as a group, no matter how I try to come up with something, sometimes there could be some reaction. Always make sure that your distractions are either neutral or positive. So if it ends up to being a little bit disturbing, move out of it into something positive. Okay, so let's go into another sensory distraction. I'm going to invite you now to imagine yourself at a beach. If a beach doesn't work as well, then go ahead, imagine yourself in a nice walk, in a quiet, maybe hike. But beach is the first preference. And you are walking along the water. And you can hear the sound. It's a calm day. You can hear the sound of the waves. I'm going to ask you to look down as you walk, and you can see your prints on the sand. And as you look around you, you see different shells and stones along the water. What I'm going to invite you to do is begin to pick up 10 shell or stone of different color, size, texture. And every time you pick one, I will count out loud from 1 to 10. But every time you pick one, I want you to feel it in your hands, look at it, really examine it, and then put it away in a pocket that you happen to have. Ready? 1. Pick up that object. Look at it. Feel it. Does it weigh in your hand? How does that feel? What's the color? Okay, put it away. 2, another one. Do the same. 3. See if you can choose different types. The more different, the better. Different color stones, maybe. 4. 5. Maybe even see is there sand stuck to it? 6. Is there a jagged edge? Is there a smooth edge? 7. Can you smell the sea in it if you happen to have chosen the sea? 8. 9. 10. So that's one of a favorite distraction that a lot of my clients say, I've used that a lot. So that's another one that you could do. Tends to be nice and very sensory because you're always making sure that you're picking a different object. So you're using your senses. We're going to continue to be in that spot. If you like, you can choose another spot. Doesn't matter. As long as it's a spot that's positive, a place that makes you feel calm, restful, peaceful. You can stay where we are, or you can find your own place, whether it's even a room. Some people like libraries, even a backyard or a place that you're hiking. It doesn't matter. Just choose one and just commit to one. What I'm going to ask of you is to look around you. I'm going to ask you to name 5 things that you see while I go through the number. Okay? 1. Look at one. See one thing that you can see there. Just make it very vivid. What is the color of that thing? 2. Another thing that you would see there. 3. 4. 5. We're going to go to a different sense, a sense of hearing. What are 4 things that you can hear in the place that you are? 1, could be anything. Even could be your havening sound. It could be the sound of silence. 1. 2. Try to make that sound as crisp as you can if you're choosing a sound or even a silence. 3. 4. And now we're going to use our sense of, they call it touch, sense of touch, skin, What by that I mean, feeling like your seat where you're sitting, maybe you tied your hair so you can feel something, or just your clothing, the band of your underwear, okay? Ready? 1 thing that you can feel, maybe even the wind blowing in your face. 1. 2. 3. And now I'm going to invite you to engage in your sense of smell. What can you smell? 1 thing that you can smell that's neutral or positive. Maybe somebody cooking something nice. Maybe the smell of the sea. And 2, another thing that you can smell. Let the memory of that smell probably from the past. Come back to the present. Recall that. And lastly, I'm going to invite you to engage in your sense of taste. Think of one thing that you could taste when you're there. Maybe you are taking a sip of water. Maybe you are eating a fruit. Maybe if you're in a nice tropical beach, somebody brought you a nice mimosa. Just whatever it is that is either neutral or pleasant, go ahead and bring the memory of that taste up to your taste buds. And so these are the series. We have a lot more list, but I'm going to end this session. Invite you to say these words after me. Because what you did there was a choice, very intentional. You chose. You made it intentionally happen. It was within your power to get there. I'm going to invite you to say these words after me. I choose to choose the me I'll be. Out loud to yourself, please. I sculpt my own neurology. I choose to bring the best of me. To all I do and all I see. I choose to choose the me I'll be. I sculpt my own neurology. And later on, we're going to go into affirmations, and affirmations can be very powerful. So I thought I would introduce an affirmation right now to you. And we end up with just a little phrase that I'm just going to say out loud. When we sculpt our neurology to the highest ideals, use daily habits and actions, dominant thoughts and intentions, so reflecting on your power to transform your life by transforming your brain, I invite you to ready to rest your hands and open your eyes. And take a moment and go ahead when you're ready to score yourself. And then we're going to keep going and we'll save some time for questions. Okay, what are distractions? How does it work? In our brain, we have what we call the prefrontal cortex, the think, right? Some of the things that get us into trouble is overthinking. And as I mentioned before, thinking about thinking. So when you're in a moment, this exercise is very useful in a moment when your SATS is a little bit on the higher end and you want to bring it down with havening. But what's going to help in addition is distractions, because what it does, it breaks that ruminating link, because it breaks the cycle. It in the words of Havening, it takes it out of working memory. So in other words, it say, look over that squirrel while I take care of you. So you're no longer in that thought, and that releases that hold, whatever your issue is that has a hold on you, so that the delta waves can do its work much better. And that's why distractions can be very powerful. So this is really useful in any. So I've given you a couple of distractions, but I will send you a list that you can use, and then you, in the end, you can just pick your favorite distractions and use it anytime you want. Okay, that's what distractions are doing. And so here are some of the things that I use: counting, categories A to Z, something like naming all the countries that starts from A to Z. Arizona, or land, doesn't have to be country, because you don't want to limit yourself, and you get like, I don't can't think of a country. You want to be gentle to yourself. Arizona, Buffalo, China, just keep going down the list, and then maybe go to fruits or whatever. That's another distraction. Okay, like I said, some people really are so fast at that they might not want to go into backwards counting. For some people, when I'm doing a session, for some people, even go counting from 50 to 2s is like, I got a little bit of a struggle. But for some people, they go so fast, I go, okay, you prime numbers from 100 to 0, and then they're in it. So for that, a lot of people like, no. So it just has to have that quality of distraction. And then we move into sensory and positive, which is usually more applicable when your numbers are slightly lower. Then, and just feel for it. Say, like, if you're starting to get too high, just ask yourself, just try these sensory ones. If they don't work, go back to the counting ones. So the sensory ones are like, name all the colors that you know. And when I'm doing this individually, I really gear it to what you like, because everyone likes different things. And for some people, one thing may be good, but for another, that same thing may be distressful. Okay, so name all the vegetables that you eat, you like. Name all the dishes that you like. If you have a special dish that you love to cook, just list every ingredient in that, right? If you love to read, just remember, just name all the 5 favorite books, your favorite author. Sometimes you can spell their name forward and backwards. And what I did was, the other thing was instant vacation. Find yourself in a place that you've been to or you want to go to, because you can engage in your imagination. It doesn't have to be a memory, it can be imagination. And then you can start naming as many things as you can possibly see in that place, especially things that make you feel curious or joyful. And then, of course, we did the whole shell picking. That's a distraction. Okay, and when to use self-havening with distractions, we talked about it, but here are some more. When you need help sleeping, pregnancy particularly, sleep is so becomes such, hear it all the time, because you have got to what? Pee all the time. So it's not that you can't get back to sleep, it's the thought of not getting back to sleep that can ruminate. And this people have found very helpful. Just go ahead and haven with your distractions. Okay. Rumination, I talked about that before. Just things that you just, for some reason, you had a conversation with someone and it just comes back to you, or maybe you should have said this, especially for me, that's talking about my own experience. Oh, I didn't say it, or something I wanted to say and I would repeat it in my thoughts. That's called rumination. Okay, and a distraction will sort of break that rumination cycle as well, and then get your delta waves is going to be able to go into your amygdala. Okay, you can do it before a potentially stressful event. So someone you don't want to meet, like at work, it's a meeting with someone you don't like, or maybe you're under a lot of pressure to perform at a meeting, or even in birth when you are have a ultrasound to go to, that maybe it would not, there's nothing wrong, but everything is so potentially scary, so that even somebody says, you know what, we're not sure of the size of your baby, we will send you for an ultrasound. To us that's just ordinary thing, but for you might be like, ugh. So you can haven at the thought of that, or you can haven before entering the space, or you can haven in a waiting room. Now, I like to say that I'm 100 years old, so when I haven, I don't care who sees me, but it can be a little bit, you don't want to feel self-conscious. So when you're in public, sometimes I suggest just the arms. When we gather as Haveners and we have our Havening workshops, all talk about our practitioners, you'll see crazy shit. Like all of us are talking and then we will be like, somebody will say something and then we'll be doing this, right? But that's not normal right now. So you can just go ahead and rub your hands. Or if you don't care, do the whole thing. You can try it after an unpleasant encounter, a conversation with someone, sometimes with pregnancy. You know, as you go towards the third trimester, things may start to bother you more. Somebody saying like, oh my God, you're so big, right? I wish that people would know not to bloody say that, because that can affect a mom, right? So if you have an unpleasant encounter with a stranger or anything, just like, go ahead and actually feel your body, feel that hormone shifting in your body, acknowledge that, give it a number, and begin to do your distraction. You can do it anytime when you feel anxious for known or unknown reasons. And that certainly does happen when you guys, you know, I don't know why, you know, but something is tight in my chest. And that's a very, that Havening can be very helpful for that. How long should you do it? Do it until it goes down. Believe me, try it. It doesn't take that long. But even if some people are happy, let's say they go from 5 to 3, at least they've achieved something. But I know when we're doing this work, if you keep going, you actually go down to pretty low. So it doesn't take more than 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes 2 minutes. If you catch it sooner, it'll come down faster. Okay? So this is my kitty cat. Is she in the back? No, she's not. She always makes people feel calm and pleasant and peaceful. Do you have any questions? Okay, here we go. I'm looking at a written question. What if you experience something massively traumatic while pregnant? Will the baby take that memory with him into life?
You already answered that for me.
I'm sorry?
You already answered that for me.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Okay. So, is there anyone else has maybe you can give me feedback on your experiences with the numbers and what that was like for you. You don't have to please me. I know that this works, but sometimes I may be able to help some people who may be struggling with it. So you don't have to please me. I just need to know. If you want to give me some feedback on so far your experiences, you could go ahead and share that with me.
Sure. Oh, can you hear me?
Who's talking?
Okay, thanks. My headphones
Oh, Christina.
are behaving strange.
Hi.
I was wondering, there are times when going to make one of those scores of one's own stress level, I'll hover around the mid-range, like a work day that's not so great, right? But then I wonder wait, is 1 neutral or is 1 like absolute bliss?
0 is there's no such thing as
oh wait, and now I'm not going to be able to hear because I don't know why this.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Sorry.
Can you hear me now, Christina? Okay. There's no such thing as neutral just for the purposes of this. It's just that just know that 10 is super, super, super stressful and 0 is no stress whatsoever. So if you're at a 5, you're not neutral. You have some cortisol. Make sense?
Yeah,
for some people, a baseline of 5 is normal.
The mid-range was still stressful, but I also didn't know if you go past to a place where 1 is actual active bliss.
Yes, we do get into active bliss with this work. Mm-hmm. So for some people, you can have some people are so used to surviving on a 4 that their baseline is 4. So with someone like that, I'm going to encourage someone to have some experiences that are lower. because they're very good. We are so clever. Pregnant people are so clever. They know how to manage, their danger out there. So 4 would be like they're alert. They're never letting their guard down. But the optimum health is to be able to once in a while, like joy is available in this work. So people who give it a try actually get to places of joy. We don't need you to be joyful and skip to a meadows all the time if that's not your style. But give it that try, because the work that we've been doing directly with people have actually brought. This is the kind of verbalization that we get. Kim, I feel joyful, like looking at me like I'm supposed to like a little secret that she's sharing with me. So it is available with this work. I want to show you how to do this. And it's about daily work. It's about putting in a penny in a jar each time so you can get there. Because you deserve joy.
I also have a question, and maybe it's a silly one.
Mhm.
You mentioned oxytocin is
Oxytocin, oxytocin.
yeah, it's a synthetic oxytocin, and that oxytocin is the release when you feel safe. Is it used so often because women don't feel safe when they're giving birth? Is that a new thing?
That's the reason for the rise in Pitocin use.
Do women typically not feel safe in birth, or is that something that's come up more recently?
If you surround yourself, it's usually safe based on what your environment is and how you perceive your environment. For some people, like, although I'm a home birth, advocate, for some people, to me, it's a philosophy. If you feel safe in a hospital, that's where you should be. So it's about what you perceive as safety, because we're such complex creatures that come with our own experiences, right? So it's what you perceive as safe. If you feel safe, and safe can be very nuanced. And even some people will say to us, I want my mother there because she wants to be there. Obviously, it's a bonding experience, but we warn them that your mother being there might not feel safe, because your mother will be worrying all the time about you. And then you worry about your mother because you have mirror neurons and you don't feel safe because your mother's worried. It's really, really complicated like that, and very nuanced and flowy. But using those numbers can give you an idea, begin to build up your internal understanding of what's safe for you. I'll wait for if anyone else has any feedback on what we did. I would love to hear one feedback for what we did so that I can get an idea.
I think this is my first time doing any havening, and I think it was surprising how quickly it brought me down to, I would say it felt more meditative than anything else. And I guess that's my question, hearing you talk about joy, it was really calming, but I'm not sure how the transfer to full joy versus, maybe I'm also a little sleep deprived because I'm in my third trimester. But I just I was went into shutdown mode.
Good question. So I would translate calm into sort of like you've shifted out of that zone into parasympathetic state. Joy happens when people do this work regularly. They push through to another I call it self-actualization stage, and they actually feel joy.
Okay.
So when you do this daily, and it takes 5 to 10 minutes, what we are getting feedback from is like, I feel joyful, almost surprised, looking at us like almost, hey, Kim, Catherine, we feel joy. Like, yes, you do. like what's this all about? And so this is why we love this work so much.
Right. So it's less about the individual session of havening, but the practice allows you to get
so like for me, the way that I can feel joy is I do this for a while. I actually go, oh my God, so delicious. Like this. So it's the practice that you put in that your body begins. So it's about neuroplasticity. You're actually lighting that place up of your place of joy so much. You keep laying neurons on there so you can get to it so fast. And so that place will constantly be perfused. The circulation will go to that place of your brain, and then you just experience that joy. So the more you do this work, the more that change in your brain is going to take place. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'm glad to hear positive, because people do say that, right? So, okay, great. Please, 10 minutes of break, bio break, we call it. Sorry if I kept you guys there not peeing, but we will see you exactly at 4:30, please. Okay. I'm going to turn off. All right, so what we are going to move to is a different kind of havening. We started with showing you techniques of doing this work to downregulate and move a bit to the green, right? To the parasympathetic state, so that your body is getting a break, so that you're being kind, compassionate to yourself. Because, it's a nicer place to be in general. Right? And it's a tool that you can use anytime, right? But we're going to move into doing what we call sort of mindfulness work that you can do daily, that is going to improve, as someone asked, improve your resilience and your sense of self and joy, and you're sort of feeling like things are a lot more in control. I can handle things. So this is daily work, pretty much like if you think about meditation in that same vein. I'm going to show you some of the things that you could do. Right? Let me go share folder now. Share the screen rather. Okay. Okay, let's talk about resiliency. What we in havening terms sometimes call a resilient landscape. What is the quality? What is the characteristics of having a resilient landscape? These are some of the, not complete list, but you'll get the idea. So someone who is resilient will have healthier responses to their environment. Meaning if somebody tells you something, or touches your belly, it's annoying, but you're like, it's fine. I hate that, but that's a healthier response. Or you're capable of saying, please don't do that. And that'll give you a sense of self-satisfaction because you've already able to vocalize. So a healthy response to your environment. Versus where one might be more fragile and might go, but just hold it in, and then later it comes out in other ways. Optimism is another characteristic of having a resilient landscape, being able to look at a glass, half full, being hopeful, willingness to hope, and and have the courage to believe that something good is going to happen. The ability to experience joy and laughter. We did kind of touch about that. That's pretty sort of just logical, self-explanatory. The ability to ask for what you need. That's another pattern that I am also seeing is the difficulty in having done this work, the pattern just emerges, and I really am very so curious and interested in how this yin nature, this womanly nature and this pregnancy state can sometimes produce, or maybe I don't know that person before that, but I do see a pattern of where when we do the havening session, we are trying to identify that so that we can change the brain a little bit so that our clients are able to actually kind of like assert themselves and say, I need this, I need that. Improve problem solving skills. That's also self-explanatory. When you're not in a fight and flight state, your brains are in different parts problem solving mode. So that's why. Decreased feeling of guilt. Guilt is such a huge thing I see sometimes. And a lot of the work sometimes whatever we've done, when we do like private sessions towards the end, that last part, that last boulder, sometimes is that sense of guilt. Like I'm actually doing something nice for myself, and that guilt is still there in one form or another. So that can happen. And a decreased risk for traumatization. That's really important because, as many of you may already know, some of you maybe don't, but birth is very fraught with traumatization risk, just by the nature of feeling so scared and fragile and protective of your self. It makes it easier, what we call gives you a more fragile landscape, and that is more, they call it permissive to traumatization. So my point of saying is that the building a resilient landscape is really important and should be encouraged for everyone. Sorry, I went backwards on that. Let me see what I did there. Okay. How do you build a resilient landscape? Let's give some, this is a little off from havening, but it's important, I think, to have conversations like this, to invite positive people into your life. Just have a moment right now where you're, think for, right, go into your mind and think of people that you would rather be with. Even if it's by Zoom, or you want to have, even if you're just talking, with this being the pandemic and all, just having someone that you love to talk to. If you need some to process something, maybe that person, maybe just seeing that person smile or saying hi on Zoom, maybe your partner. And I invite you to consider taking steps to invite positive people into your life intentionally. And by that, also, the other side of that is to decrease the time that you spend with people who stress you out to any degree that you can, without feeling all of the rest that accompany. Just like, you have to do it while, feeling like this is okay. Secondly, embracing and enhancing your positive quality. So I had I asked you a little provocative question earlier on about your, what do you do that makes you feel calm? But now I'm going to move into another type of question. I'm going to ask you, and I think I did this exercise with some of you who came to our nightly sessions. Answer me this. At your very, 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 very best, who are you? What is that quality that you possess when you are at your very best? It could be one, it could be two, but pick one for the purpose of the exercise that we're going to do. And sometimes the work daily work is around going back, almost like it's all archived, because every experience in your life has been archived somewhere in your brain. And if you ask yourself a question, often your brain goes, it's data seeking, so to speak, and it's going to find that. And so what you're doing when you are havening that, and you want to bring that to the front, which is an exercise that I do a lot. For example, before I came to here, this is my first sort of, even though I've been doing a lot of this curriculum is meant to be like replicated. So I go like, what do I want? How do I perform best? I perform best when I'm really responsive to the people that I'm talking to. So then I haven the word. I am responsive. I'm capable. Because that's my very best self. As a midwife, I am always be able to stay in the same space as the person. So, and that's why I perform best. So I haven that because I have memories of that. And I keep going back to that place when I need it. And what happens is that the neurons lay down so that it's accessible to me very quickly. So one of the exercise we do is just to go time travel back to that moment and haven that. And as if you are able to put that in a luggage, bring it back to the present and begin to haven that quality in. The other thing to do is to practice self-care, which is, of course, time is often a concern, but doing, somebody also has a cat. Yeah, just to, even if it's a short time. And if you don't, like a lot of people do yoga, all of that's wonderful. Mindfulness, any kind of mindfulness is wonderful. But if you don't, havening is what I'm going to show you. It's just very, very simple and doable. And even if you already have a practice, havening can actually enhance that practice. And I'm going to be sending you a worksheet also on like a list of things that you can do to enhance your current practice. Practicing self-compassion, we kind of talked a little bit about that, just putting yourself first. And normalizing what I call pregnancy hypervigilance. So what people tend to call pregnancy brain, I'm sure you heard that term. I feel like that is a horrible term. It's very dismissive. It feels like, there you are, she's weird, she can't, like, she's pregnancy brain. And then even that validates ourselves, when we say, I have pregnancy brain, therefore I can't, think clearly, etc. But it's so much more than that. It's more than just there is a reason, and that the reason is a transformation that you're going through. As I said before, I find pregnant women the most fascinating creatures because they're going through this transformation. Pregnancy is a natural state of hypervigilance. If you feel you don't understand why you're so much more sensitive or things affect you, that if things are affecting you more than usual, you're crying for no reason, that's because your functioning you are healthy. That means that you're moving to a transformation to become a mother. And a mother is a whole different creature. Your brain changes into a whole different, to me, but I'm a midwife, magnificent creature that is capable of loving and nurturing another human being. And because you are in that mama bear state, that you are more hypervigilant because of that, because you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to understand how to do this work. So what people say, while normally you can brush it off because it doesn't matter, might affect you more. Somebody goes, oh, your baby is really big. That might throw you off because you might hold sort of that. There might be meaning in that, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to give birth, or like my body doesn't work well. These are the things that your mind starts to ask yourself. So that's what we call the hypervigilant state. And I want to be able to normalize that by telling you, you're okay. When you do that, that's because you're healthy. That's because your body is functioning. That's because you're going to be an amazing and capable mother. You're just searching for all this information. And if you have a tool such as havening, you can go, oh, okay, I'm feeling annoyed. Just go ahead, give yourself a number and go through that chain, that distraction. And that can help you a lot with that. Right? So what does it mean biologically? You know, all your five senses are extremely heightened, especially for, and everyone is different, but in the third trimester we tend to see more of a pattern. In the beginning, some things can happen as well. Usually the center, the second trimester is like the happiest and healthier, and the more like, you know, because you're full of blood at that time. There is a, you know, you're fully like your body is getting fully oxygenated, because in the beginning your body is diluting and allowing so much more fluid and blood, and therefore circulation to go through your body. And then by third trimester, when things get sort of a little heavier, a little closer to becoming a mother or becoming a mother again, that's when in a natural state, the hypervigilance can kick in a little bit more. Right? So it's so, like, when I look at the science behind it, it's super interesting. So for instance, your sense of smell, as everybody knows, the sense of smell is heightened, right? You can smell, you know, somebody barbecuing on the next block, right? You can smell, you know, that's for partners have to be careful, because if you have bad breath, she's going to smell it more, you know, like she's going to be sensitive to, I mean, and then smells that she usually doesn't mind, she's going to have more aversion to that smell. So there have been a lot of theories about what that smell is, including the fact that, you know, it's about making sure you don't eat like, you don't eat food that's bad for you, because you can, like, that's bad for your baby because you smell it, so you're repulsed by it. So, you know, that is one theory. I think that theory should be debunked, because through the work that I'm doing, what I'm seeing is something even more powerful and nuanced than that. Your sense of smell really is about detecting fear, because the pheromones, which is the kind of scent that is given out, that we don't actually have an actual smell to it normally, your heightened state can actually detect pheromones of anyone around you, so that you can in a hospital, for instance, if somebody walks into the room who is a nurse who has just had a fight with their family and brings that fear, you are smelling, but you're not aware of it, but it goes into, and because smell has an unusual pathway into your brain, it doesn't get processed through your prefrontal cortex, it goes straight to your amygdala responds, and you don't know why. Your body shuts down and you don't know why. So that smell is the study of smell in itself is so fascinating. And there's something very cool thing they're studying called a peripersonal space. So we all have what I guess called personal space, right? People come too close to us or feel like you're just a little too close, you're making me, because that's a primal sense of threat, right? When somebody's too close, depending on the person, obviously, if the person you love and trust come near you, you actually not only lean into that person, you share the space. Your personal space becomes sort of commingled with that person. So you both are one unit, and the rest, the personal space gets wider because you now have two of you, so you feel more protected. So they're studying peripersonal spaces in pregnancy, and they found out that in pregnancy, your peripersonal is wider, meaning people you can actually detect or feel, you might respond or get triggered by people a lot further away, because your peripersonal space has widened. And that is totally logical, because at that time you really want to, your hypervigilant state makes you want to be self-protective. So so as I said, it's most prevalent in the third trimester or closer to birth, but everyone is different. Depends on your history, your background, depends on a lot of other things. So what does this protective instinct, this natural state of hypervigilance, some of the manifestation is heightened senses by what you see, what you hear, heightened response, more sensitive. Memories, past memories can amplify. That otherwise could just be a memory can now come up into the surface and hold more weight can bother you more. There's also increased intuition, which in the scheme of what I've said makes sense because you are in that primal, you are in that transformative state, and your intuition is linked to that. When we do our work, one of the biggest thing that we do, which is very subtle, if you're on a client, you don't even notice it, is we always ask you, where's the baby? So we want you to touch the baby, feel the baby, move with the baby, because we know of any other tool, medical tool, that can tell us the condition of the baby, the mother's instinct is the best tool. So one of the way that we do our work is to connect the mother with the baby, because she's best able to tell us what's going on. So it is not only, you have the intuition, but our society doesn't encourage that. What we try to do is really hone in and take advantage of your intuition and your belief in yourself, so that you can build up this really sort of become this powerful intuitive creature. Okay. And then there's last thing that I put in there. There's a lot more, but I like to put this one called a sense of urgency for preparation. Must have things ready, like you must prepare. This is a kind way of put it. When I'm with my client and we are having this little group, I always laugh. I always make fun of it. I call it manic nesting. Like the need to must have everything in place. It's almost like, I had a client who shared that moment of manic nesting when she said to her husband, you know that wall, I like to put a shelf there, on that wall. And she starts to describe the shelf, and the husband says, yeah, cool, I can do it. Maybe, when I'm, maybe the weekend when I'm ready. And she begins to tear up. And she begins to cry. And I was goes, okay, we'll do it right now. I'll go get it right now. So this, you don't even understand, but you just, and she has a really wonderful relationship. And she's like, I can't get it done right now. So that's also normal. So I always encourage you to embrace your unique, quirky self at that moment, because that's who you are. And again, my fascination with you is just, this is a constant passion for me to see this, but also to have conversations about this so that you are normal, so that we can appreciate you in your glory. Okay, so you are this magnificent creature. I do want to remind you of that. As a midwife, I feel like I have a little bit of authority to remind you what a magnificent creature you are. Okay, all of you. Okay, so we're going to go into daily work. So, I have been asking you, the intention for me asking you all these questions is to start having your back of your brain, your subconscious starts to go click, 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 click. Okay, so that you can look at the positives that in your life. You can find the positive nature of yourself and find moments of joy that you can bring back front and center at this moment. But we're going to show you how to do this daily havening to build resilience. So this is different from what we talked before the break, where we are mostly talking about how to shift to the green, right? When you're having the red. This is the kind of mindfulness that I'm talking about that you can do 5 to 10 minutes a day. Even some people, 5 minutes is all they go. 5 is very, very powerful. 5 is very effective. It's not about the 5, it's about the daily work, daily work that you do. Okay, so let's do a little exercise. We're going to go into havening again. So this is one of the things that you could do in the morning. How everybody prepares for the morning by deciding what clothes you're going to wear. If you're the kind of person who wears makeup, what shoes you're going to those were the times when you do go out. But even if you're Zooming, It's a little bit more obvious. There are funny moments where you just go out and you just function in your pajamas all day. But my point is that when you're getting ready you have your coffee, you have your mental preparation for the day. I'm going to invite you to think, let's say tomorrow, before you start your day, if you could choose the way you choose your clothing, your hairstyle, if you could choose a mindset for tomorrow, and we're going to act as if this is tomorrow morning and you're doing this. You wake up, you set, because of the work we did today, you set 5 minutes of time. You just put your alarm clock different, just to set that 5 minutes so that you can do this work. I'm going to invite you to also put on a mindset that you would want to wear for the rest of the day. Okay? So go ahead and think about what mindset would work for you if this was tomorrow morning and you want to prepare for your day. It can be just calm. It can be capable, powerful, confident. Confident is one of my favorites. It can be joyful, brave. Okay? So imagine this is just an exercise, right? Obviously, it's not tomorrow morning. Okay, so then we're going to start havening. I'm going to invite you all to begin havening. And this is simply all you're going to do is begin your havening and start to think about the choice that you have made, your mindset for the day. And there are several ways to do this. A verbalization can be very powerful. That's what I do. So let's say you have chosen confidence. You can decide if you just want to say confident, confident, confident. I'm going to invite you now. I'll be silent and invite you to use either the word or I feel. And just say it for maybe about 10 times. I'll be silent. One of the keys to this kind of affirmation is authenticity. So for some, it might be I feel or I am. For some, it might just be getting ready to step into it. So you might say, I want to, or I like to feel, or I can. So again, find the authentic phrase or word. I'm going to invite you again to go ahead and say it about 10 times while I fade in the background, let you do that. And once you find that authentic phrase, and that is super important because the one thing your amygdala always wants is the truth. The amygdala always wants to hear the truth. So just go with the truth. And once you have that word, I'm going to invite you now, as you keep havening, to think of that quality. We're going to use a sensory approach to that quality. Imagine your body absorbing that quality with every havening touch. So, one way to think about it is just to allow your body to receive it. Another way is to think of that essence of what you have chosen. It has a color or series of colors. Does it have maybe a texture, a temperature, a way that it radiates through your body? And that can sometimes help you're using your imagination, which is really powerful. And if you can come up with that texture and that what you're visualizing, I invite you to begin to allow that feeling, that essence to radiate through your whole body, through every cell. Explore what it feels like to absorb it. Allow it to move in between the cells. For some of you, that might be a radiation from within. Maybe you can feel a light just radiating outwards. For some of you, it could be in your havening, allowing to move inwards in whatever capacity. That's authentic. And you can continue at the same time to verbalize. I'll be silent again and let you do some of that work for a bit. And just as a little gift for now, that I may be able to give you, I'm going to invite you to double that sensation when I count 1, 2, 3 and clap my hands. Ready? 1, 2, 3, double that feeling. For some of you, that could be 5%, 100%. For some of you, that feeling could be so powerful that it's radiating even out to the pores of your skin. This is a new neural network that you have just created because it wasn't there 5 minutes ago and now it's there. And what that means is that you've lit up that part of your brain. And the more you do this work, even if it's 5 minutes a day, you are laying neurons, your pathway that gets bigger and bigger and more accessible to that part of your brain that's going to light up. And that's what neuroplasticity is. And when something like that happens, there is only a limited real estate. The parts that are less helpful tend to move out. Some of that move out of the way if you fill your mindset with more positive feelings. I'm going to allow you again to go ahead and repeat the word as you imagine feeling that sensation in your body. You can do this anywhere You can do this in the shower. My favorite place is my bath. So it becomes a thing. I don't have to set an alarm clock because whenever I take a bath, I just do this for 5 minutes. You can do it in the shower. I do suggest keeping a schedule starting from now, just setting a time. For some people, that might even be at night, but my suggestion is in the morning. But if that's night is the only time that works for you, that's fine. The difference between this work and the work we did before the break is that you're in a calmer place. So your body is more ready to take in something positive. Whereas the first part of our work, you're really just trying to shift down into the green. In this work, you are enhancing. And somebody had asked me about the experience of joy, and that's what this is about. The more you do it, the more that part of your brain will light up. And I'm going to finish up by inviting you to repeat the mantra that we did earlier. I choose to choose the me I'll be. I sculpt my own neurology. I choose to bring the best of me to all I do and all I see. I choose to choose the me I'll be. I sculpt my own neurology. And with that, I invite you to feel the space that's holding you and gently come back to this room. Open your eyes. For some of you, you might start to feel your baby more active. And when that happens, and if you don't, when you do this work, this is a very common feedback. And that is simply that evidence that you've moved into that state where your blood vessels, your urine blood flow has increased and your baby is waking up. That's the result of that. That's why that people often say, oh, my baby's kicking and moving. Okay, so when can you do this? I've said some of those already. 5 to 10 minutes a day. 5 minutes is what it's like all I ask if you want to do this work. And 5 minutes may be a while. Well, if you're just repeating the same thing. So what I do is sometimes I find a phrase instead. I find a nice phrase or a favorite saying so that you're just going through that. You can adjust it to any way you like it, because the idea is to understand that you're in a calm place, therefore you can introduce something authentic that a truth that your amygdala will believe, and just haven that in. Meaning that for some people that might be a bit right there, they might go, whoa, this feels good, and that's great. If you are a few steps behind, that's also good because you're starting to build up. So if it is 5%, 50%, it's already a new neural network that you're building. Right? So we talked about choosing a mindset for the day. We talked about routine, morning or evening routine. Right? You could do it in the bath, in the shower, but subway, wherever you're on your way somewhere, you can use your palms, like I said, depending on how self-conscious you feel, you might just want to be rubbing your palms. You can do it before the start of your work. Let's say your work is all about sitting in front of the computer with a Zoom. Your work starts at 9, at 8:55, right? Just go ahead and start for 5 minutes before you begin. Yeah. You can even self-haven to relaxing sound or music, like nature sounds, if some of you are into that, because it does amplify. The music, some people like classical. Sometimes they say that vibrational music, such as like Tibetan chant, sort of bowl, singing bowls, has this vibrational quality. So it enhances the delta wave too. You can do this by adding to your current mindful practice, whatever that may be. Some people have expressed that before they begin to meditate, they have daily practices, they actually do a few minutes of havening. And they find that actually improves, it gets them into that state a lot faster. So you can add that to that. It can be an addition. And stand alone, it can be an addition. I do transcendental meditation. So sometimes my work is actually 5 minutes of the mantra, the transcendental meditation mantra, and I haven. For me, that's like, that's like, I like to call it TM on steroids, because it has so much, it really has this powerful effect that because TM requires you to do 20 minutes. And sometimes a lot of people, clients come to me and they paid good money in order to do TM, but they are finding it hard to stay 20 minutes saying the same mantra and over again. And I've suggested that, and I've gotten a lot of feedback because I personally have experienced that too. So something that you can add this to, in any way that organically you can do that. Okay, you can be very creative about that as long as you understand the concept, right? That this is about adding on and building up your parts of your brain that will continue to light up, continue to get blood perfusion, oxygenation, and the pathway through, increasing the pathway through daily work. My other suggestion, is to try this out in a way that feels a lot of people more take to it more, is I suggest that you do this, set yourself a goal of a week to do this every day, 1 week, so that you can actually feel the difference and understand what this work can actually do for you. Then most of the time that's already a buy-in for people going, oh yes, and then they keep doing it, because it's more preferable to, yeah, I'll do it, I guess, and then you try once a week maybe, right? I encourage you to actually do that a week, for the entire week, so you can really feel that change, your brain changing, and then that'll really be able to tell you, convince you that you can keep doing this work. It does really help. Okay. So we talked about this, but daily havening changes your brain. It's about neuroplasticity. Your brain actually will reform through the new neurons that are going to be built. You can lay neurons on it. Neuroplasticity is relatively a new science. Well, not new if you're but I'm 100 years old, so it's pretty new. Because always when I grew up, it's like your brain never changes; it just dies. The cells dies, and then you die. But that's no longer what the neuroplasticity is. Just the word that they're using, because you really can mold your brain. Okay? So it does change your brain, and that is the most available, the cheapest, the easiest way to do it. And it's all about the willingness to put that penny in the jar every day. And then, of course, then we also taught you how to do work when you feel, in the middle of the day, when you need to shift down into the green a little bit. You can also have that on top of that, right? And finally, I want to show you this. This is from an article, but on a research. But this illustration is from New York Times. What they found out was because they explored this idea of like, why do people have pregnancy brain or baby brain? This whole concept that I just shared with you about, like being very dismissive of that brain. And it turns out through research, because the reason why I use this transformation is that, I quote this researcher, we're beginning to see that at this time during pregnancy and the postpartum period, the adult brain is at its most plastic. It is at the most moldable. So your experiences matter. So that if you can shift, you can use this tool, you are receiving this much more than even someone who isn't pregnant. And you have this opportunity to permanently rewire your brain so that you feel that when you move into motherhood, your experience can shift out of a darker area into a more joyful area instead. So it's so fascinating for me to read the research on this, because it just like fits into everything that I believe about pregnant people. Just fits so nicely, because the work that we have done, we have found it makes so much sense, because I've been spoiled, or I have a specialty. I haven everybody who comes to me, but my joy is with pregnant women, and it explains so much of the work I do and why there is so much change through this simple self-havening work. It is the difference when we see people who actually put the time in. So I highly encourage you guys to give this a try through actually committing to a week or two of daily work, so that you can see just what kind of change can happen. So this is a little cute baby that I caught maybe 8 years ago. So I wanted to give a moment for questions. And of course, if you need to rush to the bathroom.
I get the short-term effects of havening because I feel it at the moment when I'm doing it. But do you have any insight into the long-term effects of havening? How it affects the brain?
Yes. Well, because this is a fairly new science, and we haven't actually, the research is the research around this tool, this technique was done, but then the research around the efficacy has been episodic. There are universities that are doing the research now. So a lot of it is episodic, like feedback from experts like me who can tell you, just to like show, we can see the difference between the bonding postpartum. What we are seeing in our work, the big difference, of course, joy tends to be, a lot of people think of that, great, so yeah, I feel they don't value it, although they like it. But what we are seeing very tangible is the difference in postpartum. That whereas before we had any tool like that, postpartum depression felt as like this little mystery thing that can happen anytime. Nobody knows why a person would go through postpartum depression, and it would feel so sad for us, because we give so much care that we thought, wow, we give so much care, and then this person still goes through, because it can sideswipe you. But what we've seen is really good results and a big change in the postpartum expression of the kind. So that is as far as we are in terms of, because the science is so new, that's as far as but my work in the future is actually getting, doing more research around, like just getting feedback, maybe partial, quantitative research around feedback for people who actually do this work daily.
Is there an application or sort of like a strategy to invoke these methods in that's specific to birthing?
Yes. So the answer, I say quickly yes, but I haven't made it concrete yet. So in other words, when we teach this, I do labor guidance through Havening, and that has been very helpful. So I can do individual labor guidance, but because the work is there's just so much to do that there is some thought in the future of me actually creating a audio so that people can, it works together with our birth education, which is called the forager's birth. It's a whole different way to look at birth. But when a person understands these natural stages that the natural primal person goes through, and then we add havening into that tends to be super helpful. So yeah, that's definitely in the works.
You talked about havening during your transcendental practice, and I also practice transcendental meditation. Is it something that you like? Can you do it separate of that? I know you said that you can add it on, but can it be something that is like, is there an optimal time and way to utilize it? Or is it kind of just at this point, or just like what fits in your schedule at the moment, just so that you're doing it every day?
Yeah, whatever fits in your schedule, you're doing every day, but you're doing it at moments of calm, meaning at the moments of more in the green zone when you're doing the daily work. It doesn't matter when you do it, as long as you understand. The idea is that there are two types of havening. The first, before the break, is all about down regulation, and the second is that daily 5 minutes that it's long. But usually the reason why I suggest morning is because the daytime, usually you may have already started to like feel more stressed. So you can't put in something unless that thing moves out of the way. Does anyone else have a feedback? Okay, good. What I would love to do is move in, just do one more practice. And this one is one of my favorites. It's called Breathing for Your Baby. And it's breath work. Anyone has done breath work before? Okay, so breath work, many people do different kinds of breath work. So bear with me. This is my version of the breath work. Also being aware that breath in pregnancy is slightly different because our lungs are smaller. So we don't have not the capacity to take truly deep breaths. But I want to be able to give you this gift before we wrap up, and do some breathing for your baby. If you're ready, let's begin. So as we had talked about the parasympathetic breath before, and the way that the very quick hack as well, in order to move into the parasympathetic state, is simply by regulating your breath. That is within your control, how to regulate your breath. So if you're finding yourself breathing a little faster, you're just going to down-regulate it to a natural breath rhythm, the kind that you would use if you were feeling safe and calm. It's very natural. It's easy, effortless. And what happens when you do that is your body is constantly reading the pace of your breath in order to make decisions on what to do. So if you slow down into a parasympathetic breath, your body is going to go, oh, okay, you're safe. So I'm going to reroute my circulation to all the vital organs and to the womb. So it can be this, like, just go into a natural breathing. May I ask you now to imagine this breath, explore this breath in sort of the temperature of the air as it enters your nostrils. Maybe the warmth as it leaves your body through your throat. Feeling your chest rise and fall. Maybe you can even sense your rib cage just kind of opening with this easy breath, noticing that your body knows exactly how much air to take in and how much air to breathe out. And then I'm going to direct you. I see someone with a cat. I love cat havening. If you do this, you are also producing delta waves. So we're going to move this breath and actually breathe for different parts of our body. For instance, we're going to start with the face, imagining that your breath, there is a pathway and your face is actually doing the breathing. Starting to relax. Imagine there's a way that the perfusion and the nourishment and the feeling of calm is being experienced by your face because it's actually breathing in and out. Exploring, scanning maybe the back of your eyes, breathing into that, breathing out. Maybe your jawline. Maybe the back of your head. Bring your breath there. Let's move down maybe towards the back of your neck. Breathing with that part. Letting air in, oxygenation to happen. Air out. Moving that breath to your shoulders. For some of us, the shoulders can need a little love. Breathing alternately, maybe through your right shoulder, breathing for your right shoulder first. And then next breath to your left shoulder. And then alternating back and forth. And I invite you to breathe for your heart. Imagining that pathway of breath into your heart breathing in and out. What does that feel like? Whatever that is, just allowing your body to surrender to that feeling. Maybe for some of us, it's actually sort of enjoying or moving gently, allowing, breathing for your heart. In and out. And now I'm going to ask you to move your breath to your baby. And visualize the both of you, chest up and down at the same time, sinking your breath, because babies do exercise breathing even in the womb. So if you can imagine that both of you are sinking your breath. And while you're there, maybe say a little hi. Hi, baby. For some of you, the baby might have a message for you. Maybe you have a message, or like, hey, haven't been talking to you for a while. Hi, baby. Allowing whatever shows up, allowing that to happen. Whatever messages. Some of the suggestion from me is this mantra: you are safe, you are loved, and all is well. You are safe, you are loved, and all is well. I'm going to fade to the background and allow you to see if verbalizing that works for you. You are safe, you are loved, and all is well. And even as a father, you still have a powerful connection. You can still have that communication with your baby. And so this is an exercise that another tool, another way to haven, just to have a moment of connection with your baby. That would be nice. I'm going to wrap up this session with recitation of the meaning of Namaste, which is, I honor the place within you where the entire universe resides. I honor the place within you of love, of light, of truth, of peace. I honor the place within you where, when you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, there is only one of us. Namaste, and open your eyes. Come back to the space. That's the breathing for your baby. This is a picture of one of our clients. This is her second baby. And I asked her to touch the cord, which is still pulsating. It's a wonderful feeling to know how much of that perfusion is happening between the two of you. And I like to end this with this image of a cave painting. They are finding out that these hands, in many parts, they are finding cave paintings with these hands. And one of the greatest discovery, because there's an assumption in all of us, I think, that men did the cave paintings. You know, men were hunting, so they did paintings of, hunting. But when they measured the index finger in relation to the ring finger and the little finger, it was very evident that more than 75% of these hands were women's hands. and they discovered that women were the primary artists of cave paintings. And this is often a good reminder of how essential and how powerful we are, and how much of that we can get back to if we could believe in ourselves. I thank you very much. Any questions before we leave? Any feedback? I will be sending you 2 documents. One is a list of distractions, and one is just techniques of how to do this, where you can do this. Just a summary, but addition more of what we talked about.
Thank you, Kim. This was wonderful.
I'm glad. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I enjoy the rest of your very beautiful day out here. At least from my end.
Thank you.